episode of Roxy Reads. I'm Roxstar, and this is...
Mr. Panda.
And today for Roxy Reads, we've read a New York Times Editor's Choice, an Amazon Best Book of the Decade, a Teen People's Hot List pick, and a Publisher's Weekly Best Book of the Year. I am, of course, referring to Twilight! Twilight was written by Stephanie Meyer in 2005. There were a total of 4 books in this series, with a spin-off, I believe, The Second Life of Bree Tanner, and an unpublished retelling of Twilight from Edward's perspective.
This is sounding awfully familiar. I wonder why we chose this book.
Gee, I don't know. I have no idea why we chose this book. So the very first character we have that we're introduced to is Bella Swan.
Anastasia Steele.
Same difference.
Probably.
Very much Mary Sue. Hates everything. Hates forks. Don't even know why she bothered moving in with her father if she hated the town that much. But you know, that's Bella Swan.
She's the kind of person you would have seen in a Hot Topic back in the day.
If she had any personality of her own.
That's why you would see her at the Hot Topic, not the Spencers.
Then you, of course, have Edward Cullen. Or Christian Grey. Have it your way. Because...
I'm still trying to decide between the two, which I prefer. But for the moment, it's just Mr. Edward Cullen. Vampire extraordinaire.
If I had to choose between the two, I'd choose Grey. Just saying. I think Edward's a little too whiny. To be honest. Just your average immortal vampire. Also very boring character for me. Who apparently sparkles in the sun. Everyone knew that already, though. There's nothing new to add to that. And then, of course, you have the other person, Jacob Black. I see where they got the name for Anastasia Steele.
I mean...
Naming conventions. Really?
When you can't come up with something interesting, just go for a game of...
What color do you like?
I was going to say I Spy with My Little Eye.
I Spy with My Little Eye.
But sure. The game of what is your favorite color? Why? Between two people, you can carry on for hours and hours of endless play.
I mean,
available for $19.99 from Mattel.
Oh, Jesus. Jacob in this one hasn't been revealed to be a werewolf yet. Or whatever you call it. He's just like...
Instantly spoiled in the character section. He's a werewolf.
I mean... That's something I knew going into the book. It was very hard for me to avoid spoilers for Twilight. Especially for all these years. And mind you, that's not out of not trying to read the book. This is the, 5th time of trying to read this book. And this time I was actually successful in making it all the way through without wanting to throw the book into a fire. That being said, we have... I'm gonna lump these two next characters into one big group, which is the Cullens and Bella Swan's friends. They're just so blasé for me.
I don't know. I kind of like Alice. She's neat.
I don't know. I feel like there's not enough character development for any of the Cullens for me to be... It felt like... I'll mention why I don't feel there was enough character development for them. But then the friends, I feel, aren't really fully developed either because Bella just keeps complaining about them the entire time. So it's really hard to like somebody when the main character is like, oh, I hate them.
Yeah, they're not important anyway.
No, they're not. What I understood and what I got out of this book, which I will just apologize ahead of time. This was such a forgettable book for me. It really was. If I take out details, it's on purpose. it's basically Bella going, I hate this town, I'm moving away from my mom. And then, while she's there, she notices the only person she feels is different from everybody else, which is Edward. And he notices her because her blood smells different from everybody else. So then, they want to date. So, they go to vampire baseball. And then somebody wants to kill Bella. And he makes her believe that he has Bella's mother. So when she goes, she nearly dies from the experience. And the Cullens give her parents a completely idiotic excuse for why she's hurt. But no one cares. And then she asks Edward to never leave her again.
Considering this book is almost 500 pages long, that was really short.
Well, mostly because one of my opinions is not only is it forgettable, but the first half of the book is just absolutely a slug to get through with how much she complains about every detail of her life. And then once she meets the Cullens, it's like they try to jam-pack all the action in one place, so to the point where so much is happening that you just don't care anymore. That's how I felt.
Vampire baseball's pretty cool.
Actually, I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've read in a while. I couldn't take it seriously. In the middle of a thunderstorm, really, because they hit that hard and run that fast? Baseball is boring enough on its own without you barely being able to see the action.
They're vampires.
So?
All I will say is, if you have an enthusiasm for Quidditch, I don't want to hear you criticizing vampire baseball. In fact, you know what? Why isn't there a Harry Potter crossover? Vampire baseball sounds like it would be a thing in Harry Potter. There's vampires. They talk about them.
I have contentions with that, because if you watch real life Quidditch, which we've been to the Quidditch World match when it was still in New York, that's a lot of like rough housing and everything. It was great. It was like watching soccer. And I love soccer. Football.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the fly around the broomstick chasing stupid balls.
It was hilarious. I love it.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Vampire baseball.
No, baseball is boring. I can't stay awake if there's
and
a baseball
with that, we have
game.
alienated on average 25% of our subscribers. Good job.
I like boxing. Does that win some of them back?
I have no idea.
Why are we talking about this? We're supposed to be... This is how forgettable the book is, that we're concentrating on sports.
I actually remember the first time I consumed this was on an audiobook sitting in the library at my university. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, well... I didn't even... This copy was given to me by somebody, and when I first tried reading it, like, I couldn't get past the first 9 pages. I just literally threw the book across the room. And I've kept it all this time just to see if maybe I could get myself into it one day. And a few tries later, I still couldn't. So this was my first actual read-through of the entire book, which was a complete slog to get through. I'm pretty sure at times I did want to throw the book. And the problem is, I read 50 Shades of Grey first. So every time I was, and I still do it, every time I read Bella and Edward, all I can think of are Anna and Grey. I see exactly a lot of the pitfalls in 50 Shades of Grey now that I didn't see when I made the first review of it, which is the only interesting thing for me, is how much was actually lifted from Twilight to fit in 50 Shades of Grey. That's it. That's the only interesting part for me. Mostly because I could get through 50 Shades of Grey easier than this.
I mean, there's certain elements of it that are kind of interesting. I mean, they come up with their own pseudo-vampire lore, though admittedly, certain aspects of it leave a little bit to be desired. I think that I speak for most people when... I'm not even an old school vampire fan. I'm pretty sure most people, for someone just like, what? What's the... Sparkles? Like, immediately import concepts from anime just to make your young adult series more palatable to the new generation, I guess.
I guess, but I mean, I consume a lot of young adult fiction. Like, I specialize almost in young adult fiction and paranormal romance. And there is no reason to change the lore. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's really interesting to read different lores, but sparkling is just one of those that should have never made it to mainstream. There are some more interesting concepts of playing with lore than
Sadly,
Twilight.
most of them don't come out until later in the series. Twilight is a very mundane novel.
I mean...
The girl who's not special, but is special. Not pretty, but is totally pretty.
The problem is...
Ordinary life, not ordinary.
The problem is that's all of young adult fiction. And I'm not really sure if Twilight's the one that started it or not. I still think that there are older novels that do the same thing. So I think it's just following a trend, and this just happened to be mainstream. But young adult fiction is very much, there's an ordinary girl who doesn't think she's pretty, but somebody finds her pretty, and then she's thrust into some magical, interesting, paranormal world, and she has to deal with the consequences of being thrust in that world. And some of them can be interesting, but not... Twilight did not pique my interest. Maybe because I do have more of an interest in other young adult series that have done it better. But I just couldn't get through this one. I haven't even watched the movie. I just don't want to. Not interested. I mean, I will if people want me to watch it.
I saw the original movie.
And?
I haven't seen any of the sequels and have no desire to. I watched the original movie because it was only $5 and I just had nothing else to do that evening on the way home from Harrisburg.
I mean, I won't even go. I know that there was controversies that Bella was, like, too dependent on Edward, and I don't think I saw that in this particular novel. So I guess that must be in some of the sequels. So I won't really... my only problem with her, she's a Mary Sue. And Mary Sue's don't really anger me, mostly because I know why they're there. It's just to get young readers into the story a little easier. And so Mary Sue's don't anger me as much as I know it angers a lot of other people. How do you feel about it?
About the Mary Sue aspect?
Yeah.
Well, Stephanie Meyer, I was actually familiar with her work on fanfiction.net back in the day. Before,
oh my God.
Before this. So, that's a genre that just caters to the concept of self-insertion.
Yeah, yeah.
And I suspect that if you look at a lot of the new upcoming authors that have come out since the beginning of this century, you'll see a lot of those tropes and concepts kind of bleeding into that new wave of fiction. The idea, having someone who is far more of a blank slate that you can project yourself onto, if not have a direct, oh, yeah, that is me, ha ha ha, I'm Stephanie Meyer, and I'm in my own book.
Mm-hmm.
Characters like that are becoming a little more common. Less personality, more relatability. In quotation marks.
Yeah. And it's sad because you can make a main character not be a Mary Sue and still have people relate to it one way or another just by humanizing them. So it's kind of sad that most people are doing Mary Sues nowadays. So my grade for Twilight is F for forgettable and will never read again. Panda?
But it's an Amazon best book of the decade so far.
Yep, and I still wouldn't read it again.
I mean, I'll give it the benefit of the fact that it essentially revived the young adult fiction market in a certain light. It also did re-kickstart an interest in the vampire genre, although not in the way that people might have preferred, but at least it got the ball rolling for other people to start writing again. So you know what? I'll give it a C.
I was gonna say you actually.
And then I will immediately deduct the C to an F because Stephanie Meyer and I have a personal issue.
I don't even want to know.
It deals with fan fiction stuff. Don't worry about it.
You know, you mentioned the popularity of vampires, and actually I went into a bookstore that had, oh god, what was it called? Like, smutty vampire romance section. It was just a smutty romance, paranormal vampire section. That's what they literally named it. Thanks, Twilight.
Dash of sparkle with that.
Oh, and the cold dildos. Can't forget those.
Can't forget the dildo that you put in the freezer. So it's cold when it goes in. Ooh.
I don't think we need visual on that.
Ooh.
We're good. Okay, so to prevent him from continuing, this is the end of Roxy Reads. I hope you all have a wonderful night and don't read Twilight. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Almost died
Let's
from the
start over.
experience. Oh, God, I can't take it.
Be enthusiastic.
I'm trying to be. This is such a bad book.